Welcome back to the Be Different podcast. No, I did not give Greg Richard or Nick Given the 3-2-1. I'm just going to make them go back through the whole deal and figure out where they want to start this one.
Sounds great.
But we do have a very special guest with me, and it's a Xavier legend, but it's not Andy Mack. Andy Mack is gone. He's out of the building. He has a big day ahead of him. Andy's traveling the Midwest over the next couple of days because Xavier is not playing. But we have another a former Xavier basketball player from 2001 to 2005, also played in Cincinnati, Purcell, Marion High School, and now he's a father of twins as well, and that is Keith Jackson. Keith Jackson, thank you so much for visiting the Be Different podcast. I know this is a very stressful situation, and you're probably very nervous walking in, but hey, thank you very much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
What's going on in your world before we get started on some hoops?
Man, just work. I'm a banker at U.S. Bank doing business banking, and then the family, twins, wife,
How are the twins doing?
They're doing great. Running around everywhere, getting into everything. So it's awesome. Yeah.
What are their names again?
Keith the third and Nadia. We call Keith Champ.
Champ.
All right.
Name.
What was the most challenging part of having twins that you had to get used to?
I'm not a baby person, so I'm not a one to hold baby. So it was like my wife was out of it for a few days, and they're like, "All right, Dad, get over here, change diapers, hold them." And I'm like,
that's terrifying.
Yeah, that's very terrifying.
If you don't do the right things, like they won't continue living.
I learned that
they scare me so much. Like newborn babies, they scare me so much.
Do you watch it? Did you watch like the how-to videos, and did you read some books? And
I Googled, some stuff,
just
but
just
other than
Googled,
that, man,
just Googled and went rogue.
I just jumped in there, man. You just figure it out.
That's good.
Instinct.
It's because you care about them so much. It's like you constantly are thinking about them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy.
I was comparing your twins to my girlfriend's dog recently, and then you guys came at me like a spider monkey.
Yeah, you go, how are the twins? And you're like, yeah, like, Chris, you got a dog, so like, I had to like let it out this morning.
Yeah, well, it's raining. It's 40 degrees. I'm taking this dog out in a downpour. I mean, the thing's about 2 inches tall. It's trying to take a pee, and it's like literally has its butt on the grass.
I didn't have to take my kids
doggy diaper.
See, you don't have to take the twins outside. I got you there.
Get a doggy diaper or something,
Well, I mean, you can.
He's learned to put diapers on his. Like, put some diapers on his.
Throw a diaper on that bad boy and get after it.
Does changing diapers bother you at all?
No, not at all.
Did it at first?
No.
Really?
It was like
that
that first initial couple weeks where it's like dark tar. You guys will learn about that. If you're not fathers, you'll learn about that. That was rough. But
the dark tar stage is over.
The sneaky stuff doesn't bother me.
Bigger accomplishment, being a dad or playing at Xavier?
Being a dad, for sure.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Got to be. All right,
Sure.
let's talk about the Xavier Musketeers, and then we'll get on to some of the teams that you played for during your time playing for the Musketeers. But this year's team, very good. 25-4, 13-3 in the Big East Conference. Right now, tied with Villanova. Villanova does have that tiebreaker, winning the game in Philadelphia as well as the game in Cincinnati. But just kind of your overall take on this team. Any player individually you enjoy watching, go ahead.
I mean, this year I love the balance that we have. We have Trayvon Blewett, who's averaging almost 20 points a game, but overall I think everybody contributes, which is a huge deal. And it's part of the reason that makes it so difficult to guard, because you have Najee Marshall, you have Cantor, you have O'Mara, you have Tariq, and all these guys are contributing. And it's a beautiful thing to watch when you can go inside, you can go outside, you can speed the game up, you can slow it down. I mean, it's tough for teams to compete with us.
I mean, across the board, I think Xavier's depth is one thing that stands out to you. Really, the only disappointing thing for me was the Villanova game. Were you in attendance for that one?
I was there.
Because for me, and I think a lot of Xavier fans, and we talked with Andy Mack briefly earlier about this, I think the one thing going in the game you felt really good about was the depth. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like we weren't able to use our depth against that Villanova team. Is it something with Villanova? They're just better. They just have the right matchups against us. The way they spread us out causes us some issues.
I definitely think that with having Spellman be able to step out and shoot threes, it kind of was hard for Tariq to be on the floor. Cantor is not the best defender. O'Mara's huge but doesn't have fast feet. So how do you match up with that? Because you can't put Blewett at the 5. Or Kaiser Gates at the 5 is a tough matchup. So they pose a difficult threat just because you have 5 players on the floor that can shoot threes.
Well, I think if Kaiser was playing better, going into that game, he could have been a matchup that they might have been able to go to. But Kaiser really has been playing well. The game against Georgetown, the following game, hit a couple of threes. I thought it looked more like the Kaiser Gates we were used to seeing at the beginning of the year. But Sean O'Mara, Cantor, Tyreek Jones, they all played under 15 minutes in that game against Villanova. So our depth wasn't able to be utilized. Is there anybody on the team that reminds you of yourself? Anyone that's like, man, that looks a lot like Keith Jackson out there?
Athletically, probably Q.
Okay.
He's a freak of nature, man. When he actually gets in the lane and
Did you
takes
just
off.
call yourself a freak of nature?
Yeah.
No, I said Q's a freak of nature, not me.
I could jump out of the gym.
I could jump out of the gym back in my day.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm not bashful about.
Okay, fair.
Being
Yeah,
athletically.
I remember.
Yeah, Q's a sculpted guy. He's a sculpted guy, a lot like myself. A lot like myself when I was playing. And I think Q lives, by a motto that I do. You got to feed the machine premium fuel, for you're a premium guy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Q's a premium machine. Nick, I saw you kind of uncomfortable with the eyes as you looked over here.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen you eat. I've seen you drink. I don't think that you feed the machine correctly anymore.
Well,
are you talking about back in the day?
You see me on those are outlier days. You've seen me on a lot of outlier days.
Okay, I see you put like the low grade of gas in.
No,
I don't see the premium going in.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, you're drinking as you drink a Fresca. You got the super juice over here.
Trying to make it happen, man. Got to get back in shape.
yeah. See, that's good, Nick. We need to get back to Keith. This is about Keith.
It's about Keith, it's not about you.
What about the changes over at the Cintas Center? I was kind of pleasantly surprised with some of the changes this year, but just your thoughts on what they've been able to do over there.
It's a big-time environment. I mean, Xavier's considered a small school, but when you step into the Cintas Center, you don't realize that. I think it's a state-of-the-art facility. I love the additions they've added to the building. It creates a great environment for the fans.
I'm going to ask you a couple of tough questions, or one tough question. Is this the best Xavier team, the best roster that they have ever had?
I don't know, man. That's we've had some really good teams. You go back to the Elite Eight run where you had Derek Brown, Stanley Burrell, Brad Redford. You go back to our first Elite Eight team where you had 3 NBA guys on that roster with David West, Romaine Sato, and Lionel Chalmers. But in terms of depth, I think this was probably, 1 through 10, probably the most talented team we've ever had.
I think it's very close. I think they're right up there. I think I'd agree with you. I think my team, my sophomore year, was really good. You had Jordan Crawford, Mark Lyons, Holloway, Freeze, myself. Jamel McLean and Dante Jack. I mean, you had 9 guys that could play. Same with you guys had some of the same group. So I think they're right up there with some of the teams. Even the team 2 years ago that went to the Sweet 16, that was a really good team.
That was a heartbreaker.
I mean, that team was loaded.
Yeah, they were.
That team was absolutely loaded. I mean, Jalen Reynolds, James Farr, the length that those guys had, and you still had Trayvon and JP. I know they were younger.
Remy,
but they were playing well from the beginning. And the 1-3-1 that they were able to run with that group was suffocating.
Yeah.
I mean, the length that they had, you could put Jalen on the bottom, you could put JP, you could put James in the middle of the high post. I mean, the length they had in that 1-3-1 was scary.
Yeah.
And then if they get out of the Wisconsin game, I truly felt that team 2 years ago was that Final Four run team.
We were definitely right there.
Yeah.
We were knocking on the door.
Absolutely.
I've never seen Greg so crushed.
That was a kick in the balls right there.
Yeah, that was bad.
We were streaming it at our house, and I updated my ESPN, so I saw that it went final, and the play hadn't happened yet. And I just looked at Greg, and he's like waiting for the stream to catch up, and then I knew they were going to lose, and so I watched it happen. I didn't even watch the game. I just watched him turn even more white.
I remember watching the game, and I was just. I think I was just with a friend at my house, and we were watching. I literally I stood up. I didn't say anything, and I went to bed. I didn't watch the replay. It was an incredible shot because it's the team you enjoy watching a team all year long, and they played so well, and they have so much talent, and you expect them to keep going and playing forever, and then when it ends, and it doesn't matter when it ends.
That was a good team.
It's final. It's
that
done.
Was right when I first started watching Xavier more than just occasionally, and Jalen seemed to have figured it out. You're like, they could really do it.
Yeah.
They could really be good.
Yeah.
And they play that, what was it, one magic moment, and that replay played, the arrest.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, I mean, every game you watch, it was halftime. It's like, here's some replays, and it's just like, just let me watch basketball without having that just put in my face.
They played it this year.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, come on, stop showing it.
It just becomes implanted in your mind like a tattoo. Well, I remember my freshman year, we played in the Sweet 16.
Oh, Kansas State game?
No, my freshman year when we played against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was the #1 seed when they had like DeJuan Blair and Levance Fields. And there was a play at the end of the game where I was in, and Levance Fields, I don't know how he either got an outlet rebound or a steal, but he was kind of sprinting like fast break, and I was like right behind him. And I could have like fouled him probably, but I kind of just like swiped at him and let him go. And then that highlight of me swiping at Levance Fields and then him making the shot played all year long. And I was at Michigan State. I was in East Lansing visiting my brother, and it kept replaying, and his friends kept making me take shots every time that it came up. So
Wow.
yeah. Safe to say, I only remember pieces of that evening, but I remember about the first 3. It was rough. And then that was the Final Four that Michigan State was in, and then Michigan State lost to UConn. I think that was Draymond Green's freshman year. And then I remember we were driving around, and they were like couches burning on streets in East Lansing.
That's good stuff.
Taking the loss really well.
You got to love the couch burnings.
Yes. So I want to get back to Keith here. We're at 2001 and 2005 at Xavier. So you were kind of a part of 3 different staffs at some level because you were recruited by Skip Prosser. You played for Coach Thad Matta from your freshman year to your junior year when you made the run your junior year. And then senior year was Coach Miller's first year.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start with Coach Prosser, obviously a guy that a lot of people respect. How was the recruiting process for you coming up? Obviously a very highly touted player in Cincinnati.
It was awesome. Being from here and literally being a mile away, I was able to come to Xavier a lot for open gyms and actually hang out with the guys. So making my commitment was rather easy because I felt so comfortable, and then literally gone.
Yeah.
So, at that point, there was no transferring because you had to sit out a year. And I'm like, well, I have to stay. I'm not sitting out a year.
So, and that rule has changed, right? So this year, now you're
sure.
allowed to.
If your coach leaves,
you're allowed to leave now. And so, and I would imagine that you're someone that would support that rule.
Oh yeah, of course. It just makes it really uncomfortable when you don't have any idea who the coach is that's coming in the type of system they're going to run, or do you fit? Because honestly, I didn't really know. I don't think I fit Thad Matta's offense. He wanted to more slow it down, control pace. Yeah, you can run a little bit, but you had, like I said, you had Romain Sato, who's a thoroughbred, Lionel Chalmers, who's also a freak of nature in terms of just speed and athleticism, but we're slowing the ball down. They get it to David West every possession.
Yeah.
It was kind of frustrating.
I understand they get it to David West part, but let him run.
Get it to Dave, of course, but if you have layups, take them. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, and then Miller came in, and it was kind of more of the same thing, but I enjoyed Coach Miller for sure. I think he's a great guy, despite what everybody says about him. So.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of heat on him.
I was making some unfair
jabs. To Keith's point, that's not something that you think about, honestly, as a high school player, is pace of play or offense.
Well, because if you get to that level, you're the man anyway.
Yeah.
So everything ran through you in high school anyway.
Right. So you just think, at least I felt like, no matter what they run here, like I'm going to be able to beat what they run, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you had the same sentiment.
I just wanted to be a part of, as a freshman, with that team where we had Lionel Chalmers, Romain Sato, David Young, we were loaded at the guard spot. I was like, I just want to play. If I can get in and compete for a spot, awesome. I understand I have to earn my keep. And then it was just like, oh, here we go again.
Right.
Another coaching staff come. But it was awesome because my junior year going into my senior year, I was able to tell Stanley Burrell, like, hey, you'll be okay. I've been through this before. Stay calm. You're a great player. You'll figure it out.
Right.
So I was a comforting person for the younger guys on that team.
Yeah, it's challenging to kind of find your place in your role early on, and you find a way to get minutes, and then going from there to expanding your role. But there also is something to be said about the culture and the style of play. There's only so much that you can change as a player too. I mean, I'd say unless maybe you're a first-round draft pick or a guy who has like crazy NBA talent, then I would say the coaches are probably going to stretch a little bit more outside of their comfort zone. But it takes a lot for a coach and his staff to go out of their comfort zone for a player. I mean, and that's one thing that I've tried to talk to players as I've coached and trained is when you're looking at a college, look at obviously somewhere outside of basketball you're going to enjoy being, but also look at the pace of play. Look offensively. One thing I tell my players all the time is ask the coach, has he coached a player exactly like you? Mm-hmm. That's a great question, because if he hasn't coached a guy exactly like you, then I probably wouldn't go there.
Right.
And that's something maybe, obviously I think we both had great experiences at Xavier, but just something that I think as a younger player you definitely want to think about.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I love my 4 years at Xavier, don't get me wrong. Basketball-wise, it was just a little tough. I mean, of course, you want to play. I played 20 to 25 minutes a game my first 2 years to 15, maybe 10. My last 2 years, what changed? You know what I mean?
Right.
You obviously know I can play. I started 10 to 12 games my sophomore year, so I played pretty well in those circumstances, and I felt like I got better every year, but wasn't able to show it my last 2 years. So it was frustrating, but the winning cures everything.
Right.
Sure. Well, and you were part of that big run, 03-04.
Yeah.
I still have that DVD at home. The run
DVD.
Yes, I do.
Can you record? Can you copy it for me?
Do you
Because
need one?
I need one.
Okay.
Oh, you don't have a copy of it?
I don't have that. No.
Yeah, I'll have to. I'll
do
get
that.
that copied for you.
Man, Greg, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're able to provide that.
Helping,
Yeah, help me out.
I can
Help
help
me
him
out.
out.
Was it Corey that you got the autograph from?
No, it was DeMar Johnson.
Oh, that was so funny.
Yeah.
He goes, DeMar, you probably remember this at the Eastgate Mall or whatever. And he signed an autograph for me when I was like 11.
It's so funny. Well, the run was amazing. And St. Joe's was the best team in the country at the time when you guys were working through the Atlantic 10.
I was at that game.
Jameer Nelson, Delonte West, and you guys were the first team to beat them. And I was in the semifinals, too, of the Atlantic 10. So then you had to do away with that win very quickly and then move on to the championship game.
It was crazy. I remember because they were so good. Those two guys single-handedly beat us at Xavier. So it was like we came in we were on edge. When we were excited, but we were on edge. And we're up 20 in the first half, and I'm like,
what is happening?
when is this? Like, when are they going to make their
Right.
run? You know what I mean? It's a game of runs. I get it. When are they going to make their run? And they never did.
Yeah.
We just kept our foot on the gas.
Well, you guys, I think you guys shot like close to 70% from the floor that game. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was Lionel. I mean, Lionel was really good in practice. I think what happened was he finally showed it. He started to show it in games, and I mean his stock blew through the roof just because. I mean, he outplayed Jameer Nelson, who was one of the best point guards in the country at that time. For sure.
He threw down a nice dunk towards the end of the game. I remember that.
Oh yeah. Lionel was the truth, man.
The smile on your face,
I just-
Greg, when you said that
I
is
think
hysterical.
it was his only dunk like all season, and he just slammed it home against the #1 team in the country.
That was pretty good. So you guys win the Atlantic 10 tournament, then you go to the NCAA tournament.
Were you not supposed to make the tournament had you not won?
No, they had to win
Yeah,
the
we had to
Atlantic
win.
10 tournament.
We got hot at the right time and never looked back.
They started. You guys started 10-9 and 2-5 in the A10.
Yeah. I remember losing.
10-9, 2-5 in the A10.
We lost at Georgetown. Oh, not at George Washington. And, I mean, we should have beat George Washington easily, but we lost, and Lionel Chalmers went off. I mean, Thad Matta couldn't really talk to us because Lionel Chalmers was storming through the locker room, cursing, this is Xavier, we don't lose like this. And it was kind of eye-opening, and I think that triggered him to just take over, because there was a kind of a battle for leadership. Is it Sato? Is it Chalmers? Is it Anthony Miles? And from that point on, it was definitely Lionel's team.
Oh, so the leadership changed after Lionel was able to kind of voice his opinion?
Yeah, it was kind of a three-headed monster in terms of leadership, but after that, it was just like get the ball to Lionel and let him do what he does. And Sato, you go ahead, he'll get you the ball, and Miles, you do your thing once you touch it on the block. So, yeah, it was definitely a changing of the guard there.
That's amazing. I mean, to go from 10-9,
Yeah.
2-5 in conference play, and then win the A10 tournament where you beat the best team in the country in St. Joe's with two legitimate NBA players. Then you're a 7 seed. You beat Louisville, Mississippi State, and Texas.
Yep.
And then you get that game against Duke.
I mean, and at that point, Texas, Mississippi State, I forget the guy's name, but they had a guy down low that was. He was one of the top big men in the country. He was a ball guy.
Do you remember who that was?
Yeah, I don't remember his name. I know exactly who you're talking
and
about.
then Texas had a guy named Brandon Mouton.
Yeah.
And he was there. He looked like a 40-year-old guy, just like he was already. I mean, he was He was a man down low.
Yeah, they had
He was feeding the machine.
He was feeding the machine quality products.
I got suspended from the track team in high school because I drove down to Atlanta for the Sweet 16 game. Got to saw the Sweet 16 game. Had a track. Had a track meet at LaSalle like on Saturday, and coach wasn't too happy.
They had Texas had PJ Tucker too, who's with the Houston now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Texas had Duke had a bunch of NBA guys. Texas had a couple NBA guys. Francisco Garcia was at Louisville. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we played against some quality opponents, man, and ran right through them.
Were those games close, or were you guys always in control in those?
We pretty much were in control of all of them.
The Louisville game, I think at one point they were down like 11 in the second half or so, and Diedrich Finn.
He's Andy Mack's son, I swear to God.
Diedrich Finn had a 4-point play that like brought things a little back into game mode.
Back into control mode for the Xavier Musketeers.
Do you think that was in the game? How much time left exactly?
It was in the second half for sure. But
9:42.
It's somewhere in there.
Well, the game against Duke was close, 56-56, under 3 minutes in the second half. Duke had Chris Duhon, J.J. Redick, Daniel Ewing, Luol Deng, Sheldon Williams. So one of those classic Duke teams. And it took J.J. Redick hit a 3 on you guys. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
And that was kind of the backbreaker that stretched it out for Duke at the end there.
It was a tough one just because we were so close. And when Anthony Miles picked up that 4th foul, I remember sitting at the top of the bench right next to the coaches, begging to get in for one thing, but telling them to take Anthony out. He can't play with 4 fouls against these guys. Take him out. And Thad told me to be quiet and sit down.
Ooh.
A minute later, he fouls out. And I'm like, now what are we going to do? We only play 7 people. You know what I mean?
And there were like 12 minutes left in the game.
Exactly. So now you're depending on guys that don't normally play major minutes. You know, it'd be different if we played the type of offense we play now, where we play 10 guys. They didn't do that then. So now I'm like, okay, we got to rely on Brandon Cole and Will Cottle, who we haven't trusted all year. Mm-hmm. No, those are my guys. No, those are my guys. Don't get me wrong. Those are my buddies, but you know, it is what it is, to be honest.
I mean, that entire Duke team went to the NBA, right?
Pretty much.
Just about
the entire team went to the NBA.
Yeah, and Miles, before he fouled out, had 16 points.
Oh, he was killing Sheldon Williams. He was eating him alive.
Yeah, I mean, Chalmers had 17, Sada with 10. Then you had Cage and Dolman. I mean, that's a big-time group.
Yeah, Cage was a great defender.
Yeah.
He was a fantastic defender.
Do you remember when you said that you'd beat J.J. Redick in a shooting contest?
I believe it.
I think I could beat J.J. Redick.
He said that quick.
I believe it. I believe in my boy.
Yeah, and I've said it to multiple people. Off the catch for sure, I would have no problem at all. Because that's what I did. Like, I conditioned myself at Xavier to be one of the best catch and shoot guys anywhere.
I thought you focused on defense.
If you think Sean Miller and Chris Mack brought me to Xavier to play defense, Greg, you are mistaken. You are absolutely they brought me there to make shots. Okay, defense was more than an afterthought for me.
I thought you just won Mr. Basketball off of defense.
Yeah. I'm sure Sean Miller and Chris oh man, this Brad Redford guy with his length and athleticism, he's going to be a lockdown one-on-one defender. You're like, no, this guy can shoot from friggin' Michigan and it'll be fine. So the run ends, lost to Duke. Okay, Thad goes to Ohio State. Can you open up about the transition from Thad to Ohio State? Because I've heard some stories about this situation, and I want to get the truth. I want to get what happened, how quickly was the transition, and how did Thad make you guys aware that he was gone?
So it was kind of some rumblings. And he said, no, it's not happening, but I guess he was taking private jets to Columbus, you know, doing that thing.
To Columbus,
it's an hour and a half. Yeah, it's an hour and a half away. You're taking a private jet. But, whatever. And then he calls us into to the dorm, and we all come in, and he's like, yeah, I got to move on to bigger and better things. You tell that to your team that just took you to the Elite Eight.
Jeez.
He said bigger and better.
Bigger and better things.
Wow.
So at that point, I stood up and I said, guys, we'll be okay. We've been through this before. We'll be A-okay. Don't worry about it. I was grateful that we didn't have to come in with a whole new regime of coaches. Sean Miller just stepped right in because he had been there already for 3 years, and you know we kept things rolling. But it definitely made that transition easier for me. Definitely not having to have a whole new coaching staff.
What a sentence!
That's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. So
did he have an Ohio State fleece on as he said that?
I don't remember that.
It was like under his jacket. He had his Ohio State polo on.
Yeah, that adds to
That's
my
amazing.
hatred.
That's bleeding through.
Terrible choice of words.
Yeah, that adds to my I'm a competitive guy, so when you tell me you're gonna move on to bigger and better things, it's like, okay.
Oh, I'm sure that would fire everybody up.
Like, God, I hope we're playing next year.
Jeez.
Well,
Then they played like when Oden's freshman year.
Oh yeah,
And
when
they-
yeah, come on, man.
Gosh.
How do you not call that foul when
I
they threw
know.
Justin Cage out of bounds? That's all I'm saying.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not call it? I think everybody in the country was like, "Whoa, that's not legal."
Thad was just thinking about that paycheck. Speaking of paychecks, you played for Coach Miller for a year.
Attaboy.
So how much money did you make in that year?
Oh man, I was balling out of control in my Pontiac Sunbird, so I was filthy rich, for sure. Those $500 checks, weren't really covering too much food for me. So
Yeah, you were getting that per diem. You were getting that per diem.
saving my meal money, my $25 from the airport. Yeah.
Well, Keith, do you have any plans to go to any of the other Xavier games before the year is out? Are you going to hit the Providence game on senior night?
I want to try to make it there. I believe it's a 6:30 game.
If you need a babysitter, just call me and I'll call Greg.
Yeah, you bring you bring a dog over and But yeah, so I'm gonna try to debate that with the wife and maybe try to get the family there for that one. So
We have a more important question to ask you.
what's that?
Oh yeah, then we'll let you go after
It's probably
this
the
one,
most
Keith.
important question we've asked all day, and it's I want to set the stage. So Brad used to play in college, as you know. Greg and I did not. And so Leonard Stokes is on his way in the building shortly here. He played at a school across town.
Ooh.
And we're gonna And then you met and you know Andy Mack.
Yeah.
So Andy really wanted to get into coaching, and his lifelong dream is to take over for Chris Mack one day. And so what we wanted to do is form a team for Andy to coach, intramural style, and we're looking for people to fill the roster. Would you be interested?
It depends on what day of the week, but I'm in.
Yeah, we'll accommodate. If you want in, we'll accommodate your schedule.
Yeah.
We're gonna
it
build a
depends on
very
the day of the
big
week.
roster. So if you
roster's
can make
gonna
it to
be-
a couple games.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
know.
Let's do it.
All
It's
right,
gonna be good
It'll be
stuff.
fun.
Yeah,
we're filling
for
out
sure.
the squad.
I'm gonna try not get embarrassed constantly because I have a feeling we're gonna get put in a very high level of intramurals, and I stopped playing competitively at like 6th grade. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be rough for me.
We got
Yeah.
Brad Redford. We'll be okay.
We'll
Yeah,
be
we're
fine,
good.
guys.
We're good.
We'll be fine.
I'm not worried about the
Right,
offense.
Keith?
We'll
You
be
can still
fine.
dunk, right?
on a good day.
On a
I'm
good
not
day.
worried
On a good
about
day.
the offensive end. I'm worried about getting crossed and spraining my ankle.
You'll be okay.
This patella tendonitis is
I
kind
got
of
faith
slowing
in
me
you.
down right now, but
Well, Keith, thank you so much for joining the Be Different podcast. It was
Thanks for
great
having me.
catching up
Appreciate
with you as always. Some great stories that I can't wait to get out there. So, Keith, I know you're a big Xavier guy. We hope that Xavier continues to make their run as I do moving forward. And I'll let you get out of here. I'll let you get to work.
I appreciate it, man. I'm not going in for a while, so
All right, well, Keith
I'll hang
Jackson,
out.
thank you.
thanks, man.